Assalamu alaikum and welcome to Perspective. As far as the denial of Nawaz Sharif's visa is concerned, we'll be talking about the political situation, considering the fact that, of course, there are issues as far as his own passport is concerned. What is Pakistani government saying about that? What is the PMLN hope to achieve in the next couple of months? Of course, the process of appeal, the legal ramifications of this denial, what the PMLN expects to do, what kind of what move can we expect from the PMLN? Will this have any consequences at all for the party? Were they expecting him to come? Will he have to come? What kind of asylum conditions will exist if he goes ahead and opts for asylum? All of that today. Also, we'll be talking about the overall situation as far as the PTI is concerned. Of course, it seems that with the kind of issues arising as far as the PMLN itself as a political party is concerned, the government seems to be getting a hand scot-free. The government, the difficulties for the government seem to have minimized, even though there are issues as far as inflation and as far as price hike is concerned. The opposition at this time seems to be embroiled in their own issues. We'll be talking about that. Let's hear what the PMLN reps have to say about that. All of that today on Perspective. I have with me Arif Chaudhry, who is a legal expert. Thank you for being with us today. Barrister Abdullah Mumtaz Kaloon, who is leader PTI. Thank you for joining us today. And Rana Ehsan Afzal, who is with the PMLN. Thank you for being with us. G. Before we go on, Arif Sahab, I will of course ask you what you feel as far as the legal position is concerned, what your views are on what's happening as far as Nawaz Sharif Sahab is concerned. There is a package that we've prepared as far as the situation, the denial of the visa, all of that. Let's hear that first.
The denial of visa extension to Nawaz Sharif is being counted as a small win for Pakistan Tehreek-e-Insaf. Minister for Information and Broadcasting Chaudhry Fawad Hussain has asked former Prime Minister Nawaz Sharif to return to Pakistan and face his cases. In a statement on the reports about rejection of Nawaz Sharif's application by the UK authorities regarding grant of medical visa extension, the Information Minister said PTI government has no personal enmity with former Prime Minister Nawaz Sharif, but he should return the money plundered during their government. Fawad Chaudhry said Nawaz Sharif should visit Pakistan High Commission for Travelling Documents and return to country and face cases. Political difficulties for PMLN are on the rise. Recently, PMLN lost its stronghold seat in Sialkot. This win became a lifeline for PTI. PTI is in a comfortable position after major opposition party facing internal challenges within the party. It is no more a secret that there are currently two different narratives within the PMLN, and the internal rift between the Nawaz camp and Shehbaz camp is only getting worse with every passing day.
Right, Arif Sahab, what do you think as far as the PMLN is concerned, other than, of course, that this, the narrative that they've been talking about, the fact that they've been talking about the former PM wanting to return now and again. First, of course, his health was an issue. Then, of course, it's about the conditions in the country at this time. The fact that, of course, his daughter's been saying he will not face a fair trial, all of that. What do you think will happen as far as this process is concerned? Can you take us through that a little bit, in terms of appeal and all of that?
Yeah, thank you very much. First of all, I would like to comment on their narrative, especially Maryam Aurangzeb, what she spoke today. It was really astonishing. I remembered, one example where there was a lawyer who lost the case of bail application, and bail application was turned down by the session judge. He came out and he spoke to the father of his client and said, "Congratulations, we have been, the judge has granted us time and has given us opportunity to approach High Court." So same was the situation, while he was commenting on that,
Okay.
As a matter of fact, when there is an order, particularly, executive order or even judicial order, there is an appeal inherently provided, and that is fundamental right. So there is nothing
extraordinary
that, right. The way she was explaining that, it was like as they were a little,
They were swinging
on
it.
defensive, the Home Department, they said, sorry, we are, actually regret this, but sir, you have the, a remedy available and you can approach that forum. So as far as the other government is concerned, this is also very interesting. They take it as their personal victory, as something, they have done, and, they were just, talking very high about their moral ground and against them. So being a lawyer, I have
You think it's just a technicality? You think that this is just a, normal procedure? What do you think this is?
Yeah, it is normal procedure. Actually, Mia Nawaz Sharif approached the, Home Office for extension of his visa.
Okay.
Because he had, already he was on visa, visit visa, and the reason was medical ground.
Okay.
Medical ground is a compassionate ground, very compelling, and especially in these countries, UK or USA,
Right.
are those countries who are working on this democratic system they have. So they really give lot of importance to such a ground. Had he been able to convince the Home Department
That he was really unwell.
yeah, that he was not in a position to
Come
move
back.
or travel, this would not have happened. He would have got that, extension. And there was some person who was, I was hearing the comment, he said, actually it was the documents that the government didn't provide him. I said, it has nothing to do with
the documentation
traveling
at all.
document.
Okay.
And you know that, there is a little document which goes to immigration department as far as the extension is concerned. That is the document on which the visa is already,
Right.
and visa doesn't mean, visa means that, whatever the time they grant to a person while he approaches them at the airport.
Right, okay.
So after that, that document goes along with the request,
Right.
duly documented that I need extension, and if they agree with that, they will grant you a time, extended time, and then you will go to you will get it stamped over there.
But what about the issue of the passport also? Is that relevant? Because there's a lot being said about, like you said, you're saying that, what Maryam Aurangzeb has been saying, the way that she tried to swing this by saying that, they've been granted appeal, and, that's a really huge victory as far as Nawaz Sharif Saab is concerned. There are other things that are being said as far as the PMLN is concerned. Is it true as far as his passport is concerned? Of course, he will need a valid passport. Isn't that true?
Non-availability of passport in many cases is a good ground for asylum, because those who are asylum seekers, they go, they approach the immigration authorities and make a request that we are facing danger
And
to
we
our
don't-
life
right, okay.
and property at the hands of the government of.
But does he,
and then-
is he seeking asylum? That's another thing.
No,
Is
no, no. He is not seeking asylum
At this time?
at
No.
this time. And he
Right.
cannot.
Okay.
The
Why?
reason is that, once you make a claim for asylum, immediately when you approach the government of that country, that should be the first thing to say that, I have a problem at the hands of the government, and then I cannot go to my country, home country, and please grant me asylum.
So he
For
hasn't
that,
done
you don't need any passport. You just go and they will consider your request based upon those documents and that evidence on the
Whatever
basis of which you are being persecuted.
Okay, I want to come back and
Yeah.
I want to talk about how Nawaz Sharif Saab's case is different or similar to Ishaq Dar Saab's. Because he, I understand, is seeking asylum. Is it true?
Yeah, he soon after going to the authorities,
Right.
immigration authorities, his stand was from the day one political asylum
Okay,
case.
so I want to come back to that, but I'm going to go to Barrister Abdullah Mumtaz Kaloon. Ji, Barrister Saab, how are you looking at the fact that why is the government taking this as their own personal victory, or enjoying the fact that Nawaz Sharif Saab has been denied visa, or are they?
Well, Mahrukh, the government, this is a win for the people of Pakistan.
Okay.
Our government has been saying from day one that Nawaz Sharif Syed is a proclaimed offender. He went on the pretext of getting medical treatment, and the leave was signed off by Dr. Adnan Khan for 4 weeks. This was well over 1.5 years ago now. And it is clear that the medical supporting documentation is inadequate, which is no doubt the reason why the UK Border Force has rejected his visa application. And I second Arif Saab's point here. I too have practiced formerly in the United Kingdom. I'm familiar with the immigration procedures, and but where I differ with Arif Saab is the fact that a person can claim asylum, and it is my view that the nuclear option that Nawaz Sharif might try to take, if his decision comes against him in appeal, he might try to claim asylum at a later stage. He will be appealing to the first-tier Immigration and Asylum Tribunal. If he loses the appeal, there'll be the upper tribunal, and following the upper tribunal, he could very well end up in the High Court. His visa is concerned is a visit visa. He's only allowed to stay here for 90 days. The UK government can extend that visa if there's medical documentation. In this case, I'm assuming that the medical documentation was insufficient, which is why the visa was not extended. UK government would have been thinking as to why patient Nawaz Sharif has not gotten the medical treatment which he was here for, and that's why there's been the result there is. But yeah.
Barrister Saab, I will come back to you. Let me go to Rana Ehsan. Ji, Rana Saab, according to Barrister Abdullah, this is a win for the Pakistani people. How do you see it? Rana Saab, can you hear me? Okay, so there's a problem with his audio. Ji, Arif Saab. Is it a win for the Pakistani people?
I don't think so. It's a win for nobody.
Not
actually,
for the government either?
No. Only,
Well, it's a little embarrassing.
For the time, for the time
At the
being,
very least.
As face value
Right.
is concerned, it has its repercussions and it has its impact. As far as the people of Pakistan is concerned, I don't think that they are being moved by all these things, as far as Nawaz Sharif is concerned. They have their own, point of view. And as far as the government is concerned, I think they should do their homework to bring him back. Because they have not done so far.
And what do you mean by that?
If you remember in your program,
yes, I know,
a number of times we have been making a request that approach that court, High Court, where there is,
a guarantee,
a guarantee.
by
And,
Shehbaz Sharif Saab, I believe.
the guy should be summoned to the court, to the High Court, and he should be made responsible that why did you give an undertaking, and if you have given an undertaking, why that person is not coming back? Because as far as his medical ground is concerned, I think it doesn't exist anymore. Because even if it has been admitted by his own daughter, and as far as this time, Home Office is concerned, they also, I think, put a stamp on that, on that evidence that he doesn't have anything to show that he cannot travel.
Right. Let me ask him this question. Ji, Barrister Abdullah, why don't you proceed? I mean, we've been having this conversation now and again about how Shehbaz Sharif Saab is a guarantor on the fact that his brother was allowed to leave. Why doesn't the government proceed against that guarantee in court? Maybe that will be a win for the Pakistani people.
No, basically, this is legally unsound. Having practiced here, you cannot enforce a guarantee against a non-UK resident or a non-UK national. Presumably, Shehbaz Sharif does not have a service address in the United Kingdom. There's no way of compelling a petition against someone who's residing in Pakistan who barely ever visits the United Kingdom. And in any case, pouring the public's funds into a case where there's a very little chance of success in trying to enforce a guarantee. Nawaz Sharif is here on subject to a visit visa. His visa was extended on medical grounds, and there's no way of the Pakistani government putting in a writ or an application before the High Court to compel his younger brother to force him to come back. That has never happened in the history of the English and Wales courts. I cannot find any precedent for that.
No, but that's not what I'm saying. I'm not saying that it's happened in the history of the courts in England or Wales, Barrister Saab. I'm saying that you can proceed in the Pakistani courts against his brother, who's very much a part of the PMLN. He's the president of the PMLN. Why doesn't the government do that? I'm not talking about the courts in England or Wales. I'm not saying that it will maybe have or not have a bearing on Nawaz Sharif Saab returning, but it will have a bearing on the PMLN. And why doesn't the government do that? That's my question.
I mean, the government can initiate measures against Mia Shahbaz Sharif, and no doubt it will at the appropriate time, though.
And we've been asking this question for a couple of months now. Right, let me come back to you.
The thing is,
Rana Saab. Rana Saab, I don't know if you've been listening to Barrister Abdullah Mumtaz Kaloon or not, but, you know, he seems to be saying that this is a win for the Pakistani people and that, you know, this is a huge deal as far as the rejection of Mia Nawaz Sharif Saab's visa is concerned. What does the PMLN say, other than saying that, of course, you have the right of appeal, which is what Maryam Aurangzeb Sahiba is saying, which is, you know, of course, one of those things that happens with every individual. So why is it, what does the PMLN propose to do? What does Mia Nawaz Sharif expect now? He's going to apply for asylum. What is the plan?
So first of all, I can understand the excitement of the government, their ministers, their parliamentarians about this issue, because there is nothing exciting happening in Pakistan or anything exciting that they have done for the people of Pakistan that they can talk about. For example, reducing inflation, reducing the prices of petrol, reducing, you know, giving them a budget to a common person where he can, you know, afford the necessities of daily life. So that is not happening. So obviously the government is very excited about this issue. Now putting, you know, this issue into perspective. Now it's a normal process. It's a quite normal process that once the time of your visa, your stay in the UK expires, you give an application for the extension of the visa to the Home Office. And here the Home Office rejected it. And in its decision of rejection, it has categorically said that you have a right of an appeal to this rejection in the Immigration Tribunal. And the lawyers of Mia Nawaz Sharif have taken up on that appeal and filed that appeal in the Immigration Tribunal. And when you do that, that rejection is set aside. So there are legal, you know, there are ways, there are legal procedures which are to be followed, and the lawyers of Mia Saab are following that. And this issue shall be resolved in a positive extension of the visa. Now, the question about Mia Saab's health. I want to make it clear that it is, you know, PTI's level of politics, that they do politics on health of their opposition partners or colleagues. And this is the level of their, you know, the government and their attack. Now, Mia Saab was not sent on his own will. He did not, you know, decide that he wants to go to UK and, you know, he's going to go over there. This permission was given to him by the federal government. This permission was given to him by the provincial government. And it was not given to him. Hello?
Rana Saab, he didn't ask for permission?
No. You know, the permission was given by...
After he asked for it?
Yes, of course. We wanted his health to become better. We wanted to take care, you know, we wanted to give him the best possible healthcare facility. And it seems that in Pakistan...
Which unfortunately is not available in Pakistan, although he has been the Prime Minister of this country three times.
Not at all.
That's unfortunate.
No, Mahrukh.
Let me come back to you. Ji, Arif Saab. Arif Saab, is it the same? You think that it's one of those procedures? You think that, you know, of course, Rana Saab is quite hopeful. He's saying it's a procedure and he will get the visa whenever he, you know, after he's done with the due procedure.
One thing is very clear, Mahrukh, that, you know, immigration is not a fundamental right.
Right.
Because that's why it hardly goes to the court of law. Because where it has gone for appeal, that is a tribunal.
Okay.
Tribunal doesn't mean the court. Everybody understands that. Because it is administrative decisions. If Mia Saab can convince, because the evidence which they produced.
You're saying it will depend on whether they believe that he needs the health you know, assistance as far as his health is concerned.
Because now the case is, you know, I think, you know, confined to a medical condition, because they approach the court, approach the immigration authorities on the basis of their medical condition. So if they can show to the authorities, especially this tribunal, that his health is deteriorating and, you know, particularly he is not in a position to travel out. So I think it is a very good ground. But otherwise, I think had they got any proper proof of that, the first this immigration
It
authority,
wouldn't have happened.
they would have already granted it, because they normally take it as a human rights issue, and after political asylum, this is the best ground ever taken by anybody who wants, because they are very liberal on these issues while granting bail, particularly to those who need medical treatment, and that is a good ground for extension also.
So you're saying that if they are convinced that he does need the health assistance, he will be granted, likely that he'll be granted.
Yeah, and moreover, this should be the, we also want to tell the government also that it's not going to happen at tomorrow. It is going to take, many months, or maybe 18 months. Or around less than 2 years. So many cases we have seen that once you file, and until they take a decision, Mia Nawaz Sharif shall be entitled to stay there, legally. So I think there is nothing to be very
concerned about as far as the PMLN is concerned.
Yeah.
Right. Okay. Barrister Saab, you think that, of course, I mean, we've been talking about the fact that his health conditions will likely dictate what the UK government decides to do as far as the extension of the visa is concerned. But don't you think at this time, whether Nawaz Sharif Saab chooses to return or not, whether he does come back at this time or not, the real issues as far as the government is concerned are some other issues as far as inflation is concerned, price hike is concerned. Those issues the government, of course, realizes, and I think the people probably of this country are more concerned about those than they would likely be about the former Prime Minister returning. Isn't that true?
Mark, that's a very good question. The government is already working day and night to improve the lives of the Pakistani populace. You've seen the economic indicators that look very promising. But on that side, the second strategy, the second promise that we've made to the Pakistani population, when I say we, I mean the Pakistani government, Pakistan Tehreek-e-Insaf, is that we're going to bring everyone who has allegedly plundered billions and millions from the public exchequer to account. This determination that the government has shown in trying to bring back Nawaz Sharif and Ishaq Dar back to Pakistan shows that we're trying to uphold the rule of law, which is a fundamental tenet of any democracy. We're trying to show that there's an equality before the law, that a high and mighty shall be brought back to Pakistan to face the charges against them. I mean, what I'm really surprised at is why on earth is Mia Nawaz Sharif sitting in the United Kingdom? I mean, if he does not trust his own courts, then what on earth was he doing for the past 45 years? I mean, if he has not been able to establish hospitals, a strong justice system, then clearly PMLN has policies have failed throughout. I mean, they should not be doing any more politics. They should just be hanging up their coats and their hats and saying enough is enough, because they failed to deliver a key premise, a key promise to the Pakistani people, that's a strong welfare state. And which is why I'm at a complete I'm surprised by why the Mia Nawaz Sharif keeps persisting this. I mean, he should come back for the sake of his party and for the sake of the charges against him. Yes.
Let me, Rana Saab, I'll let you answer that.
It's laughable how their accountability drive has been in the last 3 years. I mean, there are numerous court decisions by different justices of high courts that have said that their accountability has been on one side. It has violated human rights. They have been targeting the opposition, and all of their cases, be it on Khaqan Abbasi, Rana Sanaullah, Miftah Ismail, Khwaja Saad Rafiq, Asad Iqbal, Maryam Nawaz, Shehbaz Sharif, they have put them behind bars without convicting them, and it has taken them months, if not years, to come up with a reference, and even with those references, in all the cases, all our leaders have been granted bail, and it has been said that there is lack of evidence. Nothing has been brought to the courts. This is their accountability. It is dead. And they have, they have distorted the image of accountability. It is,
and that is why Nawaz Sharif Saab is not, subjecting himself, so to speak, to that accountability. That is your narrative.
We have a question. There are questions which need to be answered. That he was in court, Lakhpat jail, and then remand was given to NAB, his physical remand, and then he was taken to NAB. Why could NAB not investigate in court, Lakhpat jail? And when he went to NAB, what happened to his health? why did his health deteriorate so quickly? So there are question marks on maybe he was being targeted, and we are not claiming that. The claim is it is evidenced by the reports of Punjab government, by the board of directors they set up who were overlooking it, and there were numerous statements which said that he cannot be treated over here. He should be allowed to leave. He should be, we cannot give him we are unable to take care of him. So this was the scenario where he was allowed to leave, and the reason why you cannot understand why he's in UK is because you sent him. The Punjab government sent him, the federal government sent him, and it was because his health was deteriorating, and there are numerous reports on that. So that is why he's over there, and that guarantee which he signed says that when his health allows, when the doctors in the UK, they certify that he is willing, he is capable enough to travel, he will come back. And still,
a guarantee which the government is not proceeding against.
The government has to proceed. If they feel that it has been violated, the government has to proceed on it. They should take it up to court. They have not done so yet. So they should do it because the guarantee allows. It is stated in that guarantee when the UK doctors allow him to travel, when they feel that his health is recovered, when the seriousness of, when the question mark on his...
But of course, if he's not granted an extension, then obviously by default that will mean that they're not satisfied that he needs medical assistance any longer.
Firstly, we don't feel that this is such an issue which is, blown so much by this government, and I've already said why it's, why they're so excited about it, because it's simply, they have nothing else to talk about. They don't have anything.
I think maybe that's why. Ji, Arif Sab.
Mahrukh, there is a self-defeating and self-contradictory stand and argument by the opposition, particularly Muslim League Nawaz. On one hand, they quote the examples of the courts that the court has said in number of judgments that accountability is discriminatory, it is vindictive, and it is one-sided. And on the other hand, they don't want to face the courts because they are better if they trust. And naturally, they always talk very high about all, but they are saying that the courts are not accepting what is being done by accountability, NAB. So if the courts are with them, courts mean, are very independent and, there is a fair trial everywhere. So why don't they go and approach the court? All what we are saying that they are avoiding the process of law. Their appeals are pending before a high court, which granted them extraordinary relief. And it was the Chief Justice of Islamabad High Court who said, asked the government, can you provide guarantee to his life for the next 48 hours?
Right.
So why don't they go to that court where the appeal is pending, and then, the matter before the Supreme Court, every forum is available to them. So it's very unfortunate that, on one hand, you say that we trust the government, the courts, and the courts have decided against the atrocities being committed by NAB. And on the other hand, they are not.
They don't want to come.
They don't want to come.
Right. Ji, Barrister Sab, why, there is, I think that I want to go back to the question of how the government's not proceeding against the guarantee of Shehbaz Sharif Sab, because he is here and he is a guarantor. Why doesn't the government do that?
Mahrukh, this is indeed one of the options that the government shall undertake going forward. Shehbaz Sharif is already under the microscopic eye of NAB for the ongoing cases, and you've already seen the amount of hue and cry that the PMLN is making because Shehbaz Sharif thinks he's being targeted by on a political witch hunt. So indeed, which is completely
the government isn't proceeding, or what is it?
I mean, the government is proceeding on the cases that it has first on the list against Shehbaz Sharif, and those are the corruption.
And you keep on saying that the government doesn't have anything to do with NAB. So, I mean, of course, the government is quite apart. I mean, it's a different party from NAB, right?
Exactly. NAB is independent. NAB is already pursuing references against Shehbaz Sharif, which the government is wanting them to take priority because they want a result in those cases. They don't want them to linger around. As justice delayed is justice denied. But coming back to the fundamental point here, Mahrukh, I am very alarmed at how Rana Saab has given his disparaging remarks about the accountability process, when it was the same accountability process that allowed Mia Nawaz Sharif to leave the country in the first place. And it shows that how PMLN is so used to having an accountability, like the Sefer Rahman courts, Justice Quyun-like judges who bend over backwards for them. But clearly, that era is over. That era is
if you talk about Ishaq Dar Sahab, he's also not back yet. So in terms of something tangible as far as the accountability is concerned, I think that everyone would like to see something tangible come out of this effort that the government is making again, to hold people accountable.
Indeed, and the most tangible thing that can happen is Mia Nawaz Sharif jumping on the first plane back and coming back to face the charges against him. Finally, the most important point I would like to make is what is so special about Mia Nawaz Sharif that allows him, a convicted felon, to leave Kot Lakhpat jail and come to the United Kingdom to get charged to receive medical treatment? Does this send the question?
But your government allowed him to go. Which comes back, it's like a circular argument where the PMLN keeps saying that the government allowed him to go, and the government keeps saying that, it's about accountability and the fact that he wanted to evade accountability, all of that. So I think that, it's a dangerous precedent, right?
It's a dangerous precedent. I mean, it shows that
it is a dangerous precedent.
Does individuals with a certain net worth, they'll be allowed to leave after being convicted for medical treatment? I mean, the thing is,
you tell me. The government didn't oppose it. So those are questions that I think the citizens of Pakistan have been asking, and I think that they would like answers to these questions. As far as of course, as a lawyer, you also feel that, and Arif Chaudhry Sahab also, and I think we've spoken about this again now and again, Arif Sahab, about how this is a really bad law to have in the field. You're allowed an ex-PM of this country to go. Whereas there are lots of people in jails, there are so many prisoners.
There's no concept that anybody who is convict, he can be allowed to go, abroad for treatment or whatever reasons, because it has never happened before.
Right.
And the Prime Minister took credit of that he became passionate on compassions. He became compassionate about Mia Nawaz
Sharif and allowed him to go.
That's why he allowed. So how can they run away from that, and how can they shy away? Because instead of taking any credit about whatever is happening in the UK courts, they should show us something at their own, what efforts they have done.
Right.
Suppose UK grants him extension or not. Nothing doing with our government, because it is they are not a party over there.
Exactly.
They
can act independently. That's the point,
where
right?
they are party.
Rana Sahab.
First of all, I'd like to answer on that allegation that it is the PMLN which is running from the due course of law. We have not run away from anything. We have faced all the allegations.
You've only left, I mean, as far as your finance minister is concerned, as far as the former prime minister is concerned, you've only left the country. You haven't really run away from accountability at all.
Let's talk about Mahrukh, let's talk about the party in general. There must have been, they have accused probably dozens of our leaders, and all of them faced the charges. Mia Nawaz Sharif was the only prime minister or the only political leader in Pakistan whose conviction was announced. And then after hearing that conviction in London, he and his daughter came back to get arrested. So there is no, historic trend of such that he has done. He's probably one of the only politicians who went to almost 150 plus hearings. So he faced the due legal process. And it was this legal process, the courts, which allowed him to go with the permission of the federal government and the provincial government. So please let us not blame him for that. And he was convicted in a case where the judge had a questionable video, which was obviously being used to blackmail him. And if such conduct of a judge had come out in any other country in this world, any country, that judgment would have been set aside. So all of this is the political victimization. I mean, imagine that 20 kg heroin was put on a leader of PMLN and nothing has been found. No video has surfaced. So this is the level of oppression in Pakistan. This is the level of obsession of the government with the opposition. And yes, you know,
Hassam, is it true you think that people
they are
anywhere
so
else in the world, would you agree with that? You know, the way that we go back, of course, we're going back to the trial and the fact that the judge, of course, he's not alive anymore. But do you think that what Rana Sahib is saying, that has merit?
Mahrukh, if we compare the judicial system during Nawaz Sharif,
Right.
while Bhuttos were on trial, Asif Zardari, Benazir Bhutto, they were on trial. If everybody remembers that, you know, can easily recall the time, it is really shameful when a judge was being asked, and that was, you know, noted by the Supreme Court, and the judge had to, both the judges had to go. You know, who was talking to them? Mia Shahbaz Sharif. And he was conveying the message of
Nawaz Sharif.
Nawaz Sharif.
Ji.
And, you know, if we can accept this as an argument that, you know, courts are biased, system is not working fairly, squarely, so then there should be no trial of anybody. Because if we talk about the system, I would say that, you know, it's almost collapsed, you know, because people, again, all over the world, they don't accept and our system, then, you know, what to talk of, why should we accept these leaders? Because if this deterioration has happened, it is all because of their rule. Under whatever circumstances they have been ruling, they have brought the country to that level. But it doesn't mean that, you know, taking it as an example, somebody runs away, he doesn't allow us to use the word run away, we can use avoid.
Right.
Avoid the judicial system. Nobody has the right to avoid the judicial system. They should face the consequences and they should come to the courts of law, and particularly, you know, these high profile cases, they are now at the higher level. You know, whatever they are saying, even I would submit here with the utmost humility that, you know, the judge, deceased judge whom they are referring to, in that particular case, it is other way around. It is because, you know, if judge was, they were having some hobnob and he was taking to the residence of Mia Nawaz Sharif. So how Mia Nawaz Sharif, you know, can run away from the responsibility that he was playing a foul with the judge? How could he take that, you know? And all those videos, and they were actually being, you know, used for blackmailing the judge. So if that judge was used for their extraneous purposes, then, you know, it should not be the system that should be blamed. It is whatever is they have been doing throughout.
Right, of course.
Yeah.
I mean, Ji, Barrister Sahib, I want to ask you a question that, you know, has bothered me, and I think we've been talking about this on my own program for a while, that relates to judicial reform. Of course, you know, the government has always said that they're very serious about all kinds of reform. Judicial reform also being very extremely important. The government maintains that they're very sincere about it. And of course, you know, cases like this also highlight the fact that there is clearly, there are issues that need to be addressed as far as judicial reform is concerned. Do you think that there will come a time, because we are now 2 years down, looking at general elections into another 2 years as far as the PTI is concerned, do you think that there is a chance that the government will proceed or move towards judicial reform at all?
Mark, that's an excellent question. Judicial reform and legal reforms is also part of Pakistan Tehreek-e-Insaf's manifesto. We want to ensure a system that is trusted, a system that's transparent, that delivers speedy justice. As far as our country is concerned, Mark, I have to be candid here. The problems with the country that Pakistan Tehreek-e-Insaf inherited in 2018, there were hundreds of problems. So the importance was given to the economy, which we're trying to work on. Then we tried to focus on electoral reforms. And the third thing that we want to improve is the judicial reforms, as well as the law and order position in Pakistan. But it is something we want to work with the opposition. However, we've been faced with an opposition which has refused to accept the legitimacy of the government from day one. And we want to take the opposition in stride and be able to discuss
because of
a
course
whole raft
now
of measures.
there is a lot of, I mean, there seems to be this urgent pressing need of electoral reform also, because
Exactly.
there is, like you are saying, that they've refused to accept the legitimacy of this government, and that again will be a potential problem whoever comes into government next time. So of course the Prime Minister has talked about it, and there is this urgency to deal with electoral reforms also. But again, there is that back and forth exchange about how the opposition maintains the Prime Minister didn't extend that invitation to the leader of the opposition. The leader of the opposition it's like back and forth. So do you think that it's possible to have that leeway or that movement towards any kind of reform, really?
Mahrukh, our doors are open. We want to reach across the aisle and in a bipartisan manner and try to agree on a consensus on electoral reforms, on legal reforms as well. And indeed, you may have heard Prime Minister Imran Khan also said he urged the judiciary of our country to pull up their socks and start having day-to-day hearings in this case, because the backlog in the Supreme Court is over 1 million cases. They're still unheard. And that's why we need to do something. And I am saying this live on TV as well.
Unfortunately, on that note, we're out of time. Thank you so much for joining us today. Arif Chaudhry Saab, thank you for being with us. Barrister Abdullah Mumtaz Kaloon, thank you for joining us. Rana Ehsan from the PMLN, thank you for being with us. As far as the issue of Nawaz Sharif Saab getting his visa renewed or not, certainly, we've had, everyone seems to be interested in that. It has led to the PMLN making a press conference talking about it and how all of that. But I think that main issues as far as this country is concerned, really, that this issue also highlight are issues of reform, issues of change, which really the people of this country really want. They want judicial reform, they want speedy justice, they want quick justice. They don't want the kind of delays that unfortunately the system, the way that they're subjected to, and that kind of the movement towards those issues is what really people are looking at as far as this government is concerned. Will we have that? Will the government and the opposition have the kind of relationship that allows them to think about the future of this country, to think about the future of the people of this country, so that the next generations then don't have to deal with all of those problems that unfortunately that we are faced with every day. Let's hope that the government and the opposition can sit down and work towards those issues. Thank you so much for joining us today on Perspective.